And now, as we count down the road to the 2024 national elections here in South Africa, many questions arise, of course, about the current state of service delivery, bringing into the fore the ruling party and the promises made years ago, which are still a figment of most citizens' imaginations. Now, there can also be little doubt that the 2024 elections are not only going to be the toughest for the ANC, but as a direct result of the crises in municipalities, especially load shedding, water and sewage, they risk not only losing it, but losing it badly. Well, this is according to Dr. Ebrahim Harvey, who's a political writer as well as analyst, and he joins us now on Zoom to shed more light on this. Doctor, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, this sentiment of yours, and of course, is obviously shared by most, if not all, ordinary South Africans, owing to the fact that very little has been done to, of course, address the exacerbating lack of service delivery, the most important reasons as to why voters go to the polls.
Yes, obviously, and you must remember that in terms of what you've just said now, the writing has been very clearly on the wall for long, in fact. It started in 2016 when the ANC lost the 2016 and 2021 local government elections in the powerhouse of production and nerve center of the economy, Gauteng. So with that backdrop, you know, the ANC has to be very careful. I don't think it can do much, to be honest with you. Certainly in terms of a policy or legislative shifts, you know, I critique, for example, the Municipal Systems Act of 2000, which led to the imposition of prepaid water meters, electricity meters, and which led to the corporatization of services. Joburg Water, City Power, Pick It Up, etc. was formed. A lot of people who don't study this area don't. Why do you think you've had an unstoppable avalanche of township protests from June 2004? It started in the protests in the Free State. It's got to do with service delivery. Service delivery has been seriously dented. The whole ethos of service delivery has been dented by the commercialization, corporatization, and commodification of basic services. Like I said in the column, if you cannot pay for services and you're not registered as an indigent, you don't get services. And let me tell you, winter in particularly, often houses that have prepaid meters and water, electricity and water go without both if they're not registered as indigents. And, remember that before, for example, we had 6,000 liters of water universally provided free. The ANC changed that. They introduced the indigency system whereby you only get a certain amount of water electricity now if you are registered as an indigent. So I think this, together with ongoing corruption, fraud, what is happening in the municipalities, you can look at the the auditor's report, and you'll see what a scathing indictment she makes about the running of the municipalities. There's hardly any municipalities left in the country that's not under administration, that is not wrecked by corruption, nepotism, and incompetence. That is the picture throughout the country. So the ANC is going into the 2024 elections against that backdrop. And you can see it's improved a bit over the past week or so, but how devastating the load shedding crisis has been. And alongside that, remember before, when you had load shedding crisis, you had it on its own. Now you have sewerage, water, sanitation crises almost across the country, you know, coexisting with the load shedding crisis. So the cumulative impact has been one of demoralization. I can tell you, people in the townships in particular are very fed up. And I believe that they're going to voice this in next year's election in how they decide to vote. I mean, I've predicted really that I think the ANC is not only going to lose next year, but is going to get considerably less than 50%.
Now, Doctor, very interestingly, you also mentioned in your overview report that media reports haven't even done enough justice when it comes to the on-ground report about just how dire the actual situation is, as you've just described. What more do you think still needs to be done and can be done in terms of really capturing and really make the relevant authorities aware of just how dire the situation is on the ground?
You know, I'm afraid to say, you know, one would have thought the ANC government would have woken up. 2016, 2021, they lost the elections. I mean, in the most important, biggest metros, Joburg, Ekurhuleni, Tshwane. They should have woken up. I'll tell you something, there's 10 months left, and I don't foresee any shift in, this is what you require. You require a shift in policy. You require, for example, we've got a tariff structure. That tariff system can be structured in a way where you have a minimum amount of free water and electricity to poor households, independent and not necessarily having to subject yourself to a very stigmatizing and demeaning indigency system. That's precisely why there's been such a low take-up by poor people who don't go and register as indigenous, because it's a terribly demeaning bureaucratic process. I don't think it is, really, I think it's too late. I hope that it was possible that the ANC would revisit the Municipal Systems Act of 2000, which led to Pick It Up, Joburg Water, etc. Remember, these were all under apartheid. They were departments. So you had water and sanitation, electricity, etc. What the ANC did, which is where the root of the problem lies, I believe, and I studied this area. They shut down all the government departments, for example, in Joburg. They shut down water, sanitation, electricity, and they formed Pick It Up, they formed Joburg Water, they formed, City Power. This is what happened. And go and look at the question of corruption at local government level. You'll see that a number of times corruption has involved those corporatized utilities. Because there's money involved. They've turned service delivery into a business. That is what it is. So if you're not registered as indigent, why they got rid of the 6,000 liters of water and 50 kilowatt hours of electricity that was free for people, especially who couldn't afford to pay, I don't know. One of the biggest mistakes I think they made by also hardly consulting with people and imposing this indigency system. And if you're not registered as indigent, you don't get any water, electricity at all.
All right, Doctor. Unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there. Of course, Dr. Ebrahim is, of course, making a valid argument. He's done an op-ed on this, which focuses basically on all these issues. That is, of course, Dr. Ebrahim Harvey, a political writer and analyst. And he was talking to us about, of course, what the ANC needs to do to not only address the current issues plaguing the country, but to move us forward.